Still struggling with Achilles pain even after physical therapy or trying all of the right things? Well, you might be making one of these common mistakes that is actually stopping your tendon from healing. Whether it's insertional Achilles pain, confusion about heel drops, or wondering if you can still run, I'm answering your most asked questions in this video. As a running physical therapist and coach, I've helped hundreds of runners get back to pain free running after struggling with pain, swelling, stiffness in their Achilles tendon, and actually get back into doing the thing that they love. And in this video, this is for every runner who's been battling Achilles tendonitis and just feels stuck. Over the past few months, I've received hundreds of amazing questions on my Achilles specific videos on the Spark Healthy Runner YouTube channel. And today I'm giving you answers straight from the comment section. So, should you avoid heel drops? Can you combine exercises? What shoes are best? How often should you actually be doing the exercises? What about peritendon pain? Or if you have both types of Achilles issues, insertional and midportion. I'll also break down how to safely return to running without making things worse, how to progress your rehab based on your pain level and the stage that you are in. So if you've been confused, frustrated, or just want to make sure you're doing the right things, this training is for you. And if you haven't seen some of my previous YouTube videos on Achilles tendinopathy, then you'll want to go and check those out and get all of them. I've compiled them into a nice, convenient download for you. Has some images in there as well, but I have my best YouTube content in one place for you. So I will link that in the show notes. And if you've seen them, I've been loving your feedback in the comment section, like this one from Pro Images One. Wow, I guess I have it severe. I'm not a runner, but a long walker hiker. And after long walks, I get swelling around my whole ankle, sharp pains only on one side. I suspected it was from my sneakers, which I just threw out and purchased a new pair from your recommendations. And holy we're not going to say that word. Night and day difference. I just started watching you a few days ago and learned more than my podiatrist after several visits, several $1,000s, and still with foot pain. Thank you. You're welcome. And another one that I'll highlight is this one that I got in the comment section that says, I don't usually comment on YouTube videos, but this guy's advice completely got rid of my Achilles pain. Back to running 4 to 5 times a week without any issues. Great video. And there are so many more comments just like that. And it just like fills my cup that I'm able to help so many of you overcome this stubborn injury and actually get back to running. So I appreciate the feedback. And if you guys are like what keeps me going and creating content like this, so I appreciate honestly all the comments and the feedback. So today I'm going to share actionable, nuanced answers to your specific questions that you've asked me. So these are going to be your questions that are finally answered because so many have come through. Unfortunately, I've been unable to actually reply in real time because there's no way that I can keep up with all the questions. So I really kind of compiled the common themes, common questions that you've been putting in the comment section, and I'm going to answer them right now. So let's dive in to your questions. At Theoport wants to know, is the stair calf raise something people with insertional Achilles tendinopathy should progress toward as a final step, or is it always a bad idea? Great question. So this is a common one that I get in from all the athletes that I work with who have insertional pain. They always kind of ask this question. So I figured there's many of you out there who are asking it. So just for context, there's a whole deep dive video on insertional Achilles tendinopathy, but insertional pain is this pain right at your heel bone. It's literally on the bone. You might have a bump in the back of your heel. That's what we're talking about, not the common mid portion or mid substance pain that's 2.5 centimeters above that insertional site, right? So if you have this insertional pain, the question is, and the big theme is you never do your heel drops off the edge of a step or any of the Achilles specific loading exercises. You're going to do it just to the floor because you don't want to put the Achilles tendon in a stretched position, which causes compression right at the insertional site. So that's why we don't do it below the level of step. So the question is, as you're improving, as your pain is getting less and less, as you're running more, is there a benefit to actually going below the level of step? In my mind, the risk to benefit ratio is not in your favor. There really is no need to actually go below the level of the step. And especially if you have the Haglund's deformity, where you have that bony bump on the back of your tendon or the back of your bone and the tendon connects to that, I think you're really playing with fire that you're going to wind up getting a flare up. So all the athletes I work with, there's no need, honestly. You're going to have a strong enough Achilles tendon where you don't need to take it through all of that length. All right. So, really not worth the risk. You're going to maybe get some minimal benefit, but your risk profile, and especially if you've had this already once, you are unfortunately at risk for developing it in the future when you actually do too much loading to the tendon. So, whether you do some speed work, whether you really ramp up your mileage, whether you do like a hard strength workout and your tendon just wasn't ready for you, it then you're going to get a flare up. So I would say no if you have the insertional Achilles tendinopathy. And we're going to do a whole section, honestly, in the second half of this video only on insertional Achilles tendinopathy, because I know there are so many of you out there who have that condition and there's not a lot of content out there. So I have like specific questions that I've all compiled just for insertional Achilles pain. Next question comes in is, can you combine Achilles exercises? So great question. So with my Achilles specific loading progression that I've given you, we go from like low tissue irritability, so someone who has pain a level of a 1 to a 3, then to moderate tissue irritability, and then to, kind of severe pain. And I kind of presented it as runner A, B, and C, and actually just gave you the opposite. Runner A was like high levels of pain, and runner C in that video was low levels of pain. And there are different exercises based upon where you are. And if you're watching this and you were one of those people who commented on my video and you like bashed me because the title was like how to fix your Achilles pain in 5 minutes, the whole goal was for you to understand which like level of irritability you were in. So I was providing you the clinical decision making that a good therapist would actually do with you. And then once you found out which like runner you were, then you had a specific exercise. So the exercises change based upon the level of tissue irritability. So yeah, there were many people who were like bashing me in the comments section. I was like, yo, man, I was trying to provide you like you can make the decision. And then once you find the exercise itself will not take you more than 5 minutes per day. All right. So I just needed to get that off my chest because I couldn't believe how many people commented on that video saying that. And I was like, oh my goodness. It's like you try to do a good thing and then someone like bashes you. But hey, they didn't understand. I hopefully that wasn't you. So can you combine the exercises? The answer is yes. So if you think about the moderate level of tissue irritability, which a lot of you wind up being in that classification where you're a 4, 5, 6 out of 10 pain, we have the slow lowering calf raise, like the eccentrics only. And then I also presented heavy slow resistance exercise, which is like tempo reps coming up for 3 seconds, down for 3 seconds with load. You progress the weight over time. And initially I presented it as you're going to do one or the other, right? However, I will tell you, so this is where we get into the nuance. When I am working with an athlete, usually I'll have them start with the eccentrics only for about 4 weeks. And then they're getting better, they're progressing. And then I like to switch it up a little bit and add the heavy slow resistance 1 time a week. So you can combine the exercises. And then when we get to the last phase, like that runner C that I presented in that video, where the tissue irritability is mild and it's lower levels there's a bunch of exercise I had in that section. So there were single leg calf raises, double leg calf raises. There was progressing to plyometrics. So definitely in that phase, you're doing multiple exercises. So you can certainly combine the exercise. And again, it depends on you and how you're responding to the loading. Are you getting better? Are you getting stronger? Do you feel like you're getting stronger? Are you progressing your run plan appropriately where now you're running more, walking less, or you're progressing your mileage? Then that's where I start to add the creativity into doing various exercises at the same time. So hopefully that answers your question. I thought that was a great question. Salvatore 5167 says, great video. I identify myself as runner A. How many reps per day and for how many days do you recommend doing the exercise? So the main exercise for that runner A, someone who is more in this acute phase, they've only had the pain probably for a couple days, a couple weeks. Maybe their pain levels are a little higher, so higher than a 5 out of 10 pain. The and this is where we want to like do controlled loading and controlled protection, meaning we're not doing like nothing at all, right? We want to really promote some initial loading. And the loading exercise there is the isometric. So that was where we went up on two legs, shifted the weight over, and held that isometrically. And I didn't put in a specific dosage because, again, there is different literature out there that use different rep ranges. However, I will give you the most common that I prescribe. Again, personal experience, clinical experience that I use with my athletes. This isn't like the end all be all. And you'll have different clinicians who have different theoretical models that they will give their prescription. But I'm going to answer this question because I got it a lot, honestly, in the comment section. A lot of people ask this one. So for that isometric exercise, I would hold 5 to 6 seconds. You can even hold longer. Like there's some literature out there that does 15-second, 20-second, 30-second isometrics. I just think the practicality of that, like no one's holding for 30 seconds. I know I wouldn't hold that long. But there is literature to state like the longer you hold, actually it has more of a pain modulation effect. So it actually can decrease your pain levels. So it's very interesting with those isometrics. But I would hold 5 to 6 seconds at least, do it for 10 to 15 repetitions, and do it twice a day, every single day for that initial exercise if you're that runner A. So hopefully that was helpful for you. I know there were a bunch of you who asked that question. So Nick wants to know, he says, I'm runner B, maybe even runner A. Can I run for the 4 weeks that I am doing the exercises, or do I need to do the exercises for 4 weeks and then start running? So no, 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 Nick. Like that is the old model of treatment. That is the you are injured model. You go to physical therapy. We shut down running. We don't do anything. And then, okay, you're discharged, graduation day. Let's have a big celebration at the clinic. And then, oh, go and run. And then you're going to go and run. And then the pain's just going to come back in. So you don't want to do that. So, yes, you do actually want to integrate running. Like all of my runners who I work with who are in that B and even in a little bit of A, it just needs to be scaled to what running should be for you. So, most commonly, I'm always starting someone with a run walk ratio. So, they're doing some elements of running, some elements of walking. What that looks like, it varies based upon someone's pain levels, how long they've been having this, and what their level of running is. Like, are you a marathoner who is used to doing 50 to 60 miles per week? Or are you more of a casual 3 day a week runner who goes out for 20 to 30 minutes per day? So that's where I kind of make that decision and scale it back. But if you want to get an idea of how I usually progress the return to run from structured run walk intervals, I usually, if you want to start with the most conservative, would start with literally 1 minute of running, followed by 1 minute of walking. And then we repeat that for 6 reps on one day. The next day, we might repeat it for 8 reps, and then we preserve a long run, the longest run of your week, and we do 10 reps. And that would be like week 1. Week 2, we would actually progress to 2 minutes of running, 1 minute of walking, and then we have those different distances. So I see a lot of people making mistakes with return to running is that they keep increasing. They're like, it's like totally linear, meaning every single week you keep running longer and longer and longer, and you keep increasing the reps of the run walk intervals, or you lengthen out the run walk intervals. And that's where I see people getting into trouble, because we want to preserve one shortest run. You have the least amount of load to the actual tendon once a week. And then we have that long run, and then you have like a medium run. So if you're a 4-day-a-week runner, perhaps, then you might have like 2 short runs, a medium run, and a long run. If it's a 3-day-a-week plan that is best for you to start out right now, then you're going to have like a shortest run, a medium run, and a long run. And I have actually kind of the most common progression that I would give my athletes in my Return to Run program, which is a free download you can get. Just go to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/return to run. I actually have the calendar structured out for you. So if you're looking for some structure, you don't know how to do that, and you don't have a good running PT near you that you're working with, or a good coach that's familiar on working with runners who are injured, then that would be a great place to start to provide you a gradual progression as you get back into running while you perform the exercises. So yes, you want to, be able to do both. And it makes me think of someone that I just worked with recently. If I could share a quick story with you guys about John. And for those of you who are thinking you might be too old to actually get rid of your Achilles pain, and I know you're out there, right? I know you're listening to this. So I want to speak to you because John was someone who I just recently worked with, and he went from like 30 years of Achilles struggles to actually strong, pain-free miles at age 61. So for over 30 years, John battled recurring Achilles tendon pain. He thought he had it under control. After all, he had been through 6 to 8 flare-ups over the years and always managed it with rest, calf raises, and heel drops. But in January of 2024, something was different for him. The pain came back with a vengeance. He tried to train through it like he has done before. Then he took a break. And then when summer came, he eased back into running, only to be met with the same amount of swelling and discomfort. So he rested again. Then fall came and the cycle repeated. So you might be in a similar situation. This is a very common scenario I see with all the athletes I work with. But at this point, John has spent countless hours watching videos online, sorting through endless conflicting advice. What he really wanted was a clear, structured plan, something with video guidance, a workbook, and a coach who understood exactly what he was going through. So then he found me on YouTube, watching those videos that I mentioned to you, and my Achilles tendonitis content. And John says everything he heard finally made sense to him. So he downloaded the Achilles Rehab Guide, signed up for coaching to work with me one-on-one, and we had our first call back in March. Together, we assessed his running form, pinpointed what exactly was going wrong, and built a progressive, personalized run and strength program through the Final Surge platform that I utilize. And now, fast forward 4 months later, John is about to finish his full recovery program. He recently ran 8 miles at a sub-8 pace on a hot summer day with 0 Achilles pain. And his 61-year-old body felt great. He even is racing again, aiming to place in his age group. He's a very talented runner at the 4th of July 2-miler in Knoxville. John told me this program gave him the structure, coaching, and support he was searching for all along. And best of all, he's no longer stuck in this injury, rest, repeat cycle. He's feeling strong, confident, and thriving in his running journey. And he said it best. He said, Dwayne and his team are outstanding. He really cares. I highly recommend Spark Healthy Runner program for anyone who wants to run strong and injury-free for life. And I share this with you, not to, tout our program, but to provide you hope and to provide some context into everything that I'm teaching you here for free is applied to actually real runners who are probably going through similar scenarios that you're going. And if you think you're too old, or think like running isn't in the cards anymore for you, that you need to hang up your running shoes, like John is living proof that you can overcome this condition and continue to actually run fast. And by the way, I didn't even like provide my full introduction. I'm Dr. Dwayne Scotty. I'm a physical therapist, coach. I'm an educator. I'm the founder of Spark Healthy Runner. And this stuff is what I do all day long, allowing you to get stronger, run faster, and enjoy lifelong injury free running without having to worry about your Achilles pain from coming back again. So let's continue answering your questions. Richard, 24 by 74, says, great content. I do have a question. When I do start the exercises, I'm like runner A. So again, more of that higher tissue irritability when not hurting, runs 20 to 30 miles per week. When the pain flares up, like at this time, I can barely walk, much less run for 10 to 14 days. And the area gets swollen and very tender. I'm now at a point, it's almost back to normal. Swelling is minimal and the pain is minimal. When should I start the exercise program? So if the pain is minimal, you're ready to start right now. And even as I mentioned before, if your pain was in that moderate, like you don't need to wait for the pain to be totally gone to start that initial isometric exercise. You actually might find, like I said, that isometric exercises shuts off the pain. So, yeah, there is a lot of research with chronic tendon injuries that show isometrics, again, it's not doing harm. It will actually make you feel better. So, especially if it makes you feel better, like you can start that exercise as like it's in your back pocket. Let me pull this exercise out that Dwayne taught me for when I get this flare up. There's your go-to exercise. So you don't need to wait until your pain levels are low. You don't need to just like rest it, ice it, take anti-inflammatories, and then just, wait and see approach. Like you don't need to do that. And honestly, I would argue that it's probably more detrimental. Do I ever recommend that for some folks? Yes, but it's literally a 2 to 4 day limited time period that I ever have one of my athletes do that kind of approach. So you're more than ready right now, Richard. Like, get to it, start doing those exercises. All right. Robert Duffy asked this question. He says, very informative. My issue, I'm suffering from tendinosis, not tendinitis. Do you recommend the same rehabilitation regimen? Absolutely, because what we're talking about is all the same. I use the tendinitis nomenclature, Robert, because that's what many of the general public knows it as. If I really touted the kind of medical terms, whether you're using tendinopathy, tendinosis, many of you would be confused. You would think it doesn't apply to you. So actually, I am talking about tendinosis. Tendinosis just means that there's degenerative changes to the actual tendon fibers. So the tendon itself, there's some degenerative changes that you can see on MRI, or even if someone did a diagnostic ultrasound, then they would be like, oh, you have tendinosis. The majority of you, if you're middle-aged, have Achilles pain, it's tendinosis. If you're a high schooler, college kid, first time you ever got Achilles tendon pain, it's a true tendinitis. It's not tendinosis. And then the general term that we use now is like tendinopathy. So it's just like Achilles pain, essentially. So you're going to see all of those terms. They all mean the same thing for the most part. Again, if you're really young and it's the first time you've ever had this, it's just this active inflammation, then that's a true tendinitis. And the treatment is slightly different from the rehab regimen that I prescribed. Once pain and swelling go down, you're going to actually get right into those rehab exercises anyway. So, great question. I'm sure many of you probably had the same thing. So, hopefully that clarified it. All right, next question comes in. I'm not going to try to pronounce this handle because I will definitely butcher it, but it says, hello, what about peritendon Achilles pathology? Unfortunately, there was nothing about this in the video. And this is actually really ironic because I did not learn about peritendinitis in physical therapy school. I would say I have never come into actually contact with this condition, clinically speaking, when I was in kind of a traditional clinic setting. And even when I was physical therapy faculty teaching this stuff to my physical therapy students at Quinnipiac University, I wouldn't even cover this with them because it is more rare, right? You're going to really kind of cover the things that are most common so they can be able to help, patients in the clinic. So I didn't cover this in the video, but ironically, like it's really ironic that you asked this question because this actually happened to me recently during my latest marathon build, guys. This happened to me. It was a super cold run, single digits here in Connecticut, and I wore I wish I had it with me to show you the Skyward X Hoka shoe, which has a really high heel counter, super high. And I actually mentioned that in the Achilles shoe video, and showed that shoe. And that shoe irritated my Achilles. And I think because it was so freaking cold outside, even though I did my dynamic warm up, it irritated my Achilles tendon. And I got this peritendinitis, which actually is known as like paratendinitis. And what it is actually inflammation of the paratendon. So the Achilles tendon is a very unique tendon in our body that it has different layers and covering. And there's actually a paratendon that covers the true contractile tissue tendon. And what you can actually get is like this boggy swelling around the tendon. So the tendon itself is not inflamed, and this is usually caused by like overuse, and it's especially in common in athletes who are doing any repetitive motion or runners, and the symptoms include pain, swelling right in the area, and I had it literally like this whole like probably like 2 inches part of the tendon, and it was around the tendon, and it was like this boggy swelling, like I could it's like right underneath the surface of the skin, it feels like, where it kind of moved, the swelling. And some people actually get like crackling sensation or what we call crepitus, where you can hear some snapping when you're moving your foot up and down. So that's like the tendon moving on the paratendon with the swelling in there. So it it's kind of interesting, honestly. And for either severe, moderate, or mild cases, like how many times, you should be doing the exercises and the resting is really variable. And this condition, because it is very unique, that it's not so much a tendon problem, you don't need to actually load the tendon. So I would recommend treating this more like an itis scenario. Like I mentioned, that high school cross country athlete who gets their first bout of Achilles tendon pain because they just did too much and it's actually swelling around the tendon. I would treat it like that, where you have to scale things back. So I personally took probably 3 days off of running completely, which is super rare, right? That I ever take off of running and that we ever need to do that, take off of running. But I would say that I'm just going back to your initial question here. Okay. So, yeah, you didn't really ask about kind of how much frequency that we should be doing this exercise. You just wanted to know a little bit about it, but you want to do more the kind of decrease swelling, decrease activity for a little bit, short period of time, and then test the waters with running. So I didn't do any speed work initially, even though at that point in time I was doing speed work. And that day, actually, when I got the pain, it was a day that I was doing strides. And I think the shoe heel counter was literally just jamming right in that area of my Achilles tendon. And with it being super cold, it was just like a perfect recipe, I guess, a little disaster for getting that. And then actually, now that I think about it, I also added in, and this is a good tip for all of you who are doing hill strides or hill sprints, hill intervals. You got to be careful. If you're in your 40s like me, you have to be careful that you don't go out and because I did my first hill workout, it was a speed work my coach had programmed, and I honestly was pumped up for it. I was like excited. I actually enjoy doing that type of work. And I was a little too aggressive as far as my push off with my pacing. It was the first workout of doing these longer hill intervals, and I pushed it too much. My body let me know, right? So that stuff happens, and it was just interesting to me because it was like not around the tendon like itself, and it was like this boggy sensation. And then I noticed the swelling actually spread a little bit. So I was like, I don't think this is like Achilles tendon pain, and it's kind of weird because it kind of came out of nowhere. So if you have that like acute onset, then you want to think about scaling things back, decreasing stress. Don't focus on loading. In the future, yes, you need to actually load the tendon and get into like the rehab exercise that I talked about. But yeah, super interesting. So if you have this like paratendinosis, paratendinitis, of swelling of the covering around the Achilles tendon, then it does require a little different kind of strategy. Um, all right. So White Rabbit 7446 wants to know, currently runner C, why can't we do the heavy slow resistance exercise instead? Or why are the exercises you mentioned for option C better in this case? So what he or she is referring to is for runner C, who has mild tissue level irritability. I talked about doing concentrics and kind of doing like single leg calf raises, double leg calf raises, single leg calf raises, actually doing angled calf raises where the Achilles tendon is in a stretch position, doing plyometrics, right? Like that's the progression. However, that being said, White Rabbit, you can easily do heavy slow resistance in that stage. And honestly, I often have most of my athletes doing at least 1 or 2 days a week of either the heavy slow resistance or the eccentrics only with progressed resistance. So they're up to 30 pounds, 40 pounds in a backpack or a weighted vest and doing either eccentrics or heavy slow resistance, just because I do feel like it is beneficial to do that heavier loading of the tendon while you're also speaking to someone else's point before. Can you combine exercises? This is a great example of when we combine those exercises where 1 or 2 days you'll do heavy slow resistance or the eccentrics only, and then another day I'll have them doing single leg calf raises, or I'll have them doing their pogo jumps, their plyometric strengthening of the Achilles tendon. So I love that question that you asked because you are correct. You can certainly do them if you have that lower level of tissue irritability at that stage. But I want to make sure that you are also progressing to strengthening the tendon concentrically, which means going up against resistance, doing a calf raise where you're doing the raise portion, and you're also working in a stretched position where you're off the edge of a step, where you are angled, like there was that exercise that was angled against a wall, and then that you're doing plyometrics. Because remember, running is a series of hops from one foot to the other. We need to strengthen the Achilles tendon plyometrically so it can tolerate the demands of running. And if you're already getting value from this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next video that will help and prevent your Achilles pain from coming back. Next question we have is Eva Show One wants to know, hi, how are you doing, coach? Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking. She says, thank you. I'm assuming it's a she. Thank you for your advice. I appreciate you. I have a question. I am runner B, so they're in that moderate level of tissue irritability. I would like to know, are these workouts the only ones you recommend to do daily? Is it okay to do workouts at the gym or just stick to these exercises? Great question. Loved it. You definitely want to still do other work in the gym that doesn't irritate the tendon. So, strengthening the glutes, hamstrings in particular, will be super helpful. Very, very important for runners in getting over this condition because those muscles are on the back of your leg. They work with the calf muscles and your Achilles tendon when you run. So, the stronger the glutes are, stronger the hamstrings, the less stress to your Achilles tendon when you're running. So, you definitely want to be doing other strength exercises when you're doing those Achilles specific exercises. So, for all the athletes that I work with, they get a specific exercise program based upon their specific problem areas. So we assess and look at their movement patterns, find out, are the glutes weak? Are the hamstrings weak? And then I'm going to give them specific exercise to target those areas. So they are working other muscles that are going to help you become a stronger runner, in addition to the Achilles specific exercises. With, remember, that goal is to not only strengthen the calf and strengthen the Achilles, but more importantly, allow the tendon to heal. So we're using strength training to facilitate healing of the actual tissue of the actual tendon through loading, right? And those are those loading exercises and the progressive loading that you're doing. So awesome question. Thank you so much. Mike Paget, 1245, wants to know, thanks for the video. For the warm up before running, would you say you want to do the weight shift exercise for a full 5 minutes before running? Definitely not for a full 5 minutes before running. So Mike is referring to kind of those toe taps where you're doing that single leg calf raise, you're holding for a second or two, shifting your weight to the other side. Hold for a second or two, hold for a second or two. Typically, give my runners 20 of them. For those that are really short on time and it's really tough to actually get in the 5-minute dynamic warm up that I give them and some foam rolling, treating the soft tissue, then I have them. And if their pain levels are really low and they're like, been progressing, they're improving, they're doing their loading exercise on a different day from their runs, then I'll have them at minimum do 10 times back and forth. Definitely not 5 minutes for that one. So just 10 times back and forth. Great question. Next question that we have is, I'm so glad I found your channel. Question, I'm hearing that one shouldn't lower his or her heel below the level of the foot, yet in some videos, it appears that this is what is being done. Could you elaborate on when you should or should not lower or dip your heel below the foot? Thank you. Great question. I'm sorry for the confusion. I did not shoot any videos of myself doing the exercises just to the level of the floor. So my apologies for the confusion that this caused. But if you have the insertional Achilles tendinopathy, where it's right on the bone, right down here, you might have some swelling around your heel bone, then that is the scenario that you do not want to go below the level of the foot or the level of a step. That is the only scenario. If you have mid-portion pain or mid-substance, sometimes it's referred to, pain a little higher where this blue is indicated on the tendon, then you do want to go below the level of the step. And if it is painful, remember that's okay as long as the pain is less than a 3 out of 10 while you're doing the exercise, and as long as the pain doesn't get worse after the exercise. Okay, because we actually want to stimulate load to facilitate healing. So it is only in that insertional tendinopathy. And I know a lot of people watched my insertional tendinopathy video where I did a whole video just on insertional Achilles tendinopathy. Unfortunately, I didn't have any like videos of the exercises that don't go below the level of step. So I kind of referenced watching the exercise video. Unfortunately, in that exercise video, there are no exercises that I only do to the level of the floor. So apologize for the confusion, but if you have insertional, it's the same exercise, just go to the floor, not below the level of the foot or the level of the step. All right, Isabel wants to know, great video I'm watching, wondering whether these exercises should accompany those for posterior tibial tendonitis, which I've just been diagnosed with, have had symptoms for a couple of months. I've read that posterior tibial tendinopathy tends to load the Achilles tendon, and that strengthening the Achilles tendon as well as the entire calf ankle complex should be the way to go. I've just discovered your channel, your video and live stream on posterior tendinopathy popped up, and I'm exploring all the content. Great work. Thank you so much. Any advice you'd be able to provide? Great question. I'm actually working with an athlete right now who has this unfortunate combo platter where they do have the posterior tibial tendon, which is this tendon right here on the inside. So it's between your kind of inside ankle bone and the heel bone. That is where you will get posterior tibial tendinopathy pain right in there. Achilles pain could be on the inside part of the tendon, the medial portion fibers. So sometimes it gets tricky to differentiate. Is it Achilles pain I'm feeling? Is it posterior tibial tendon pain? And honestly, when I can't actually decipher between the two, you're going to get both exercises. So you're going to get the posterior tibial tendon slow lowering exercise that I probably referenced in that posterior tendinopathy training, where you cross one leg over, you put the band around your ball of your toe here. You're going to slowly lower for 5 seconds. Use your hand to bring your foot up and then slowly lower down. You're going to get that exercise, and you're going to get the specific Achilles loading exercise as well. So you can definitely get both conditions. And the reason for that is because the posterior tibial tendon is also a plantar flexor, just like the calf muscles. So sometimes people compensate, right? So if you start getting Achilles pain, then your posterior tibial tendon is going to actually do more of the plantar flexion for you, and that might get overused. Or you might be compensating if you're running through this, where you start to actually not push off of your big toe like you should when you run, and maybe you start to roll your foot inward a little more. So now you've bowstring, or you overstretch the posterior tibial tendon. So you start doing some funky things with your running form, either putting more weight on the outside of the foot, inside of the foot, and that's where we tend to see some more posterior tibial tendon issues. So if you have both, you can certainly do the rehab for both. You just want to make sure that one of the exercises isn't irritating the other. So you want to make sure, like, the posterior tibial tendon exercise is not going to irritate the Achilles, but the Achilles loading exercises and progressions could irritate the posterior tibial tendon. So if that's happening, then unfortunately you need to scale back the Achilles specific exercises until the posterior tibial tendon is strong enough to tolerate that load and demand. Great question, Isabel. I hope you are doing much better by now. Next question, Jennifer Bowman, 7813, wants to know, okay, I'm going to give this slow process a try. Why not? Nothing else has worked. Why do you think about, or what do you think about a tool like the Gasha, or scraping of the calf itself, or of the Achilles? Some people might refer to that as like Graston technique here in the East Coast. That's probably like the most popular, but it's basically instrument assisted soft tissue massage. Or now they even make devices that are marketed toward the general public, Sidekick tool, all those that you can kind of do your own scraping. It seems to help when it's aching. So I like that you are giving my process a try, first and foremost, in terms of loading and not giving up and running. If you're hearing me now and you're still feeling defeated, you don't have to feel that way. But to answer your question, the scraping of the tendon, like, yes, that's a technique I've used with many, clients when I was working in a traditional PT clinic. It can be beneficial. It can help from a pain modulation standpoint. I don't think it's really helping from a healing standpoint. So some of the initial theoretical model behind the scraping is that you're breaking up scar tissue. I don't think it's doing that. So just so you know, that's not why it's going to feel better. And you don't want to like scrape the heck out of it and make sure it's like red and swollen, and then that's going to like kickstart the healing process. I would you're treating the fascia, so that overlies the actual tendon. You're treating the connective tissue. So if it feels good for you and you feel like it's working, definitely great compliment. Is it something everyone needs to get over Achilles tendinopathy? Definitely not. But yeah, the more kind of tools you got in your toolbox, and literally this is a tool, so that's a great analogy, the better. And it is a nice compliment. Like when I was in the clinic, like I said, yes, I would definitely do some of that with the athletes that I was working with. But remember, the long-term fix, because that's short-term relief. The long-term fix is going to be dedicated loading progression, progressing the resistance, progressing the weight, and getting stronger in the long term. And if you are feeling defeated, I'm so glad that, Jennifer, you're not feeling defeated. But if you are, like, I want to share a quick story with you about an athlete that I just finished working with at the time of this recording. This is Carrie, who nearly gave up on running. She's back running after 13 years of Achilles pain. So she had two major Achilles injuries that sidelined her for literally 13 years, more than a decade of setbacks, frustration, and feeling that maybe her running days were behind her. But then she found the right path forward and the right coach. And as she said it in kind of her follow up, she said, Dwayne helped me return to running after two significant Achilles injuries that kept me from running for over 13 years. And instead of jumping into random rehab exercises or guessing her way back into training, Carrie followed a detailed science backed recovery plan designed specifically for runners like her. And it wasn't just about rehabbing an injury, it was about rebuilding strength, confidence, and running routine that actually worked for her body. And with a personalized approach, she didn't just recover, she achieved her goals. And she says, his recovery plan is detailed, scientifically based, and helped me achieve my goals after more than a decade of being sidelined. Carrie finally reclaimed her runner identity, and she did it safely, consistently, and with expert guidance every step of the way. She says, I thoroughly enjoyed working with Dwayne and would recommend his services to anyone looking to get back into running. So if you've been living with chronic Achilles pain or feel like it's too late to return to running, like let Carrie's story be the proof that it's never too late to come back stronger. All right. So hopefully that provides you, again, some inspiration and hope that you can come back, even if it's been over a decade. And yeah, with Carrie, we scaled it, started real slow. With that return to run progression, I spoke about earlier, I even had her doing less initially. We literally started out with like 30-second runs because it was a good 3 or 4 years since she even attempted to try to run, because she would, attempt every couple of, years, try to run, then it'd be painful and she'd stop. But it was a very slow progression initially, but then we got her back to actually running without walk breaks. And like, she was so thrilled. Like, she has a very stressful job as a high school principal. She was just so happy to be able to like get those stress relieving runs back into her daily mix and to feel active again and start feeling like an athlete again. She was actually a former like really, really high quality swimmer. So just to like feel like an athlete again meant everything to her. So again, I share this, guys, because there is hope. You don't have to say like, hey, your running days are behind you, no matter how long you've had this stubborn Achilles pain for. All right, next question. J Morgan 4173 wants to know, I have both types of Achilles tendinopathy. Is that common? I would say no, but I would use the insertional principles when treating to make sure that you aren't irritating the insertional site. So this person is saying that they have both irritation at the heel and also up here. So is it common? I would say no. Have I seen it before? Yes, super rare. But you're going to have to use the principles of treating it like the insertional type, because if you don't, and you drop your heel below the level of the step, then you're going to irritate the heck out of the insertional site. Next question. Carlton Banks wants to know, what is the pain higher up, but just below the calf? Mine gets set on fire just 1 mile into the run, throbbing pain. It's nowhere near as low as the heel. So great question, by the way, because I do see this. What Carlton's referring to is pain higher up, just below the calf muscle. So like right here, we call this area the musculotendinous junction. It's kind of where the muscle forms into the tendon. And yes, like you can get pain here. I've had athletes who've had pain here. I've felt like some discomfort here at times. And a lot of the times it's because this gets bound down and you can get trigger points in the soft tissue itself. So the greatest thing I would recommend for you is foam rolling this area. And in my foam roller video on my YouTube channel, you will see I specifically placed the foam roller right there. So you release the inside of the calf muscle, you release the outside of the calf muscle. There's usually a bunch of trigger points right in this area here, and then place the foam roller right in this area, and then do active motion, pumping your foot up and down while you release this area. So that will specifically treat the soft tissue there, or take your massage gun, literally stick it right in that area. You can put your foot up on a chair, do some calf raises as you release this area. It's going to work magic for you. But you still need to strengthen the calf muscle. I find this is a common issue when someone has weak calves. How do we test that? The easiest way: how many single leg calf raises can you do? Many of you cannot do 25, and all runners should be able to do 25. And I'm talking about 25 without compensating. Most common compensation is your knee's going to start to bend when you lift up and down. So keep your knee totally locked, raise up, see if you can do 25 single leg calf raises. If you can't, your calf muscles are not strong enough to tolerate the demands of running. And commonly, this area will get strained as a result. So, great question. It is something that I do see, not like fairly common, but I see it enough where, every couple of months, there's an athlete that I'm working with that will get some pain here. And usually we have those strategies, and that kind of shuts things right off. And if you want to learn more about like proper pre-run and post-run exercises and the little tweaks that just make a massive difference in keeping you healthy during training, this is all I talk about in my free newsletter, Healthy Runner. Link is in the description for this. So now let's get into your specific shoe questions that you had for me. And Patty9588 wants to know, are stiff shoes that you can't bend in the forefoot, or shoes that have a rocker, bad for Achilles tendinopathy? So shoes that are stiff, you can't bend them, right? You can't flex them. Hold on. Let me just reach over here and grab this little shoe. All right. We're doing this live here, guys. So if the shoe is stiff, you can't bend it at all. Like this shoe actually bends, right? So this wouldn't meet that classification. But there are some shoes that you can literally not bend. So if it's really, really stiff, what that is doing is when you run and you transfer your weight over, it's not allowing your foot and ankle to like basically transform into the forces, and it doesn't allow movement there, but it transfers force up to the knee. So theoretically, it should transfer stress away from the foot and ankle and your Achilles tendon. But you got to be careful, because I have had runners who have these like very stiff shoes start to get like knee pain and like patellofemoral pain, runner's knee symptoms. So just make sure that your knee isn't getting any worse. It might be a good strategy initially with Achilles pain to have a stiffer rocker soled shoe that's going to kind of propel you forward. Doesn't mean that you're going to need that forever. As long as you get the Achilles tendon strong enough, calf muscle strong enough, then you can kind of gradually wean out of that. Or, one run a week, use a more flexible shoe to allow the foot and ankle to actually have to work and use some of those muscles. So great question. Next question that I got for shoe specific is it good for insertional Achilles tendonitis to run with heel lifts inside of your shoe? I don't think it feels natural. And that's going to be like the quick fix solution for like old school docs and like podiatrists. They're going to be like, you have Achilles tendon pain, put this heel wedge into your shoe and just run with that for the rest of your life. That will decrease symptoms if you have like an acute case. So actually going to like the peritendonitis case that I mentioned before, that would be a good option to actually use a heel lift for that short term while you're getting that inflammation down. But I don't think it feels natural, honestly. If you were someone who is just like so committed to your zero drop shoes, then for those athletes, I would say, you know what, while you're still having symptoms, we got to put this heel wedge in here, this heel lift in. Because that's going to take your zero drop shoe and make it like a 3 to 4 millimeter, shoe. So I just don't think it feels natural. I've used it for short-term tendinitis or during like a recent flare-up for like a week or two, but I don't think it's a great long-term solution. I would just recommend using a slightly higher heel drop shoe, more for a long-term fix. And it's just going to be less annoying for you. You're not going to continually have to replace them. And I just don't think it feels natural inside the shoe. So now I want to know, have you resonated with any of these questions yet? Do you have the same problem? Are you struggling with something different? If you can, please leave it in the comments, because I would love to be able to create future content specifically for what you're going through, like I am actually doing on this video. This is literally all the comments that you have left on previous videos, and I can answer questions like peritendinitis, or I can answer some of these like specific questions. So if you're going through something similar, like leave it in the comments and I'm going to get to it in a future video. Next, I'm going to share with you answers to your specific insertional Achilles tendinopathy questions. Before I do that, if you're getting value from this, you're enjoying these tips, I would greatly appreciate it if you hit that like button so I can continue creating free content like this so you can maintain a strong mind, a strong body, and just keep running. Also, if you're loving this content, you're certainly going to love my ultimate free guide to start running healthy without Achilles pain. You will learn all the specific strategies to get back to running without Achilles pain and keep it from coming back. And I've compiled all of that for you in a convenient downloadable PDF. Grab your free download ebook by clicking the link that I have for you in the description, or simply go to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/Achilles. All right, insertional tendinitis questions. Angry Man 7800. I don't know why you're so angry. Hopefully you're not angry. Has a question. He says, wow, finally someone who actually knows what I'm going through. This is so helpful. Downloaded the ebook. Do you have any other resources or videos on this? So the ebook has my best videos on this topic. It's all linked within the ebook. If you want the next level support and community, then I would highly recommend you hop on the wait list for the next time we open the Healthy Runner Academy, which is your all-in-one system to finally run stronger, longer, and injury-free without guessing, burnout, or piecing together random advice from the internet. This membership was built specifically for aspiring and dedicated adult runners who want to overcome nagging injuries like Achilles tendinopathy, get faster, be more consistent, build a strong, resilient running body, stay healthy as they get older, and actually enjoy the process. So whether you're training for your first half marathon, you're bouncing back from Achilles tendinitis, or chasing a PR and you just don't want that Achilles tendinitis to come back that you had last year, this is the proven framework that takes you from frustration to finish line with expert guidance and a supportive community. So you can join the wait list now. You'll be the first to access our next launch and new cohort. So I only open this about like 3 times a year. You can simply go to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/HRA. All right, next question comes in that says, I have been suffering from insertional Achilles tendonitis on and off for about 5 years. Can heel raises on a flat surface aggravate the symptom? Possibly, if you're doing the wrong type of heel raise exercise. So in the exercise video, again, it is classified due to mild, moderate, or severe type symptoms. So if you're trying to do a regular heel raise, most commonly that could irritate your condition. So that's why we have the isometrics. We have the other 2 exercises I talked about earlier in this video, heavy slow resistance, and the eccentrics, or the slow lowering only. So it depends upon which exercise you're doing. And if you are highly irritable, higher pain levels, 7, 8, that kind of thing, it might, take a couple of days before you start the isometrics. But yeah, generally speaking, doing them to the flat surface should be tolerable. Next question comes in that says, how about people who need to wear work shoes? So like military, firemen. Yeah, this is tricky. I've worked with a bunch of you who have needed to wear, boots for the military. Those that are, in any of these industries. I worked with farmers who had to wear boots, and with this condition, it's tricky. You really want to try to get as much padding as you can and minimize the time that you're in your boots. But trying to pad the back surface, or try to have some, boots that are really broken in where the leather is like really soft in the back, or trying to stretch out the back part, like maybe try to stick, something like firm that is solid. to stretch out the back part of the heel so it doesn't actually cause pressure and compression to the insertional part of the tendon. Yeah, that's my only advice I could give. Next question. Mike wants to know, thanks for this. Had this issue for about a year on and off. I'm a tennis player and not specifically a runner. Do you have any thoughts on some differences to consider in the rehab protocol? Yeah, so great question. In terms of the rehab protocol, for a tennis player versus a runner, same thing, same rehab protocol. Um, there's definitely more considerations, which actually someone who is also a tennis player asked in the next question. So I'll kind of group those together. But as far as like the rehab exercises, they're the same, no matter tennis, runner, basketball, badminton, I don't know, whatever your sport is, those specific exercises are going to be the same. So then Theo wants to know, he says he's a high level tennis player who likes to run, but has struggled with insertional Achilles tendinopathy for 3 years now, making it nearly impossible to run for more than a few minutes before needing to walk. PT folks I went to all had me doing the heel raises over a stair, even though I said it didn't feel right, stretching the Achilles, calf, and doing lunges with twists. I got so fed up with short term fixes and started and targeted therapies that missed the whole picture that I've been trying to learn it myself. So thanks for the free education. You are welcome. I was a heel runner for my whole life and have been training myself to run more on my toes and slowly working my way to smaller heel to toe drop. I'm convinced that years of being on my heels, high arches, and a bad ankle sprain 8 years ago have made my calves and Achilles weak and shortened. That is true. That can happen. I've made a lot of progress, mostly through calf raises, hip and ankle mobility, and balance, pipes and discs, but I still have setbacks every once in a while. There's a helpful video that has confirmed my experience against advice I've received. My question, I was wondering if you have any specific advice for introducing plyometrics. I do a minute or two of jump roping before I play tennis and some occasional sprint work. That is about it. I've noticed I'm not light on my feet compared to real runners, and my tennis footwork is lacking in that regard too. I don't know if you're aware, but each shot in tennis begins with what we call a split step. That is basically a plyometric movement to stretch and spring you forward to the oncoming ball. This is great education for me here. For tennis, though, this is often a lateral movement. So just straight calf raises and running don't quite mimic the range of motion you need to master. Um, yes. So very good point. Like sport specificity is very important, especially if you're getting back to tennis. That is more lateral movements, side to side movements, right? So you don't want to just work straight plane, like you mentioned, doing calf raises. So as far as like plyometrics, the jump roping is good, which is essentially like a pogo hop, which does focus on strengthening the Achilles tendon and the calf muscles plyometrically. So I love that you're doing the jump roping. The sprints, I'm assuming you're doing them more for sport specific speed to be able to sprint to get to the ball, and hopefully not from like a healing perspective. But if it is for sport specific, so you can just be more explosive, totally cool with that. You don't necessarily need to do sprints in order to heal from the Achilles tendon, just for clarification there. But I would recommend doing some plyometrics that are lateral movements. So some of my favorites are side to side hopping over a line or like a band. Put a band on the floor, start with two legs and jump over side to side, right? So that's one where you can kind of pogo over, you know, something small that's on the ground. You can, you know, increase and put a sneaker on the floor, kind of increase the height to make you jump higher. That's one exercise that I like to give to my athletes. And also hopping in a zigzag pattern where you're traveling. So you'd be traveling forward. And I have all of these on my YouTube channel if you want to search them. But zigzag hopping side to side with 2 feet first, and then I would progress to 1 foot. Definitely a lot trickier 1 foot, but that's a great agility type plyometric exercise for tennis because you're really strengthening the muscles on the sides and, you know, the sides, the outside and the inside part of the ankle, as you're stabilizing your ankle. And your Achilles has to work plyometrically as well, especially when you do the traveling forward. But yeah, those would be great. I love your thought process with thinking about tennis specific work, but those are two that I would definitely recommend. And for those of you who are not tennis players and you're runners, those are also progressions I give my runners, because you still need to have strength on the inside outside part of your ankle, especially if you ever, you know, run on an unstable surface or you just hit the sidewalk a little wrong. That actually happened to me the other day, believe it or not. Like literally, I almost went down. Oh my goodness, it was ugly. It was like I just took a step, didn't realize the sidewalk was like kind of uneven, and my ankle rolled. Luckily, I got some strength there where I rolled it right back. No pain. I just kept running. I was like, oh my God, I like literally almost just like sprained my ankle. But that's why we need strong muscles on the outside and the inside part of your lower leg to kind of prevent ankle sprains. All right, next question comes in from Jang1. Can your book, help with my insertional Achilles tendonitis for basketball? When I play, the pain goes away, but returns after I'm done and tend to have it pain in the morning. Yes, so your symptoms are classic, right? That's the classic pattern of pain that we see. And yes, absolutely, like everything in the ebook is going to help you just like it would for a runner. So again, no matter the sport that we're talking about. So next question from Jeff says, but what if I get the insertional tendonitis flare up if I am only doing walking? Yes, I do ankle mobility movements every single day. I am at the gym, which is 5 days a week. I do 4 sets of heavy standing calf raises, seated calf raises, leg press calf raises once a week on my leg day. But I mow the lawn in light hiking shoes, which takes 3 to 4 hours, and my left Achilles is then on fire. I have had the condition for over a year. I did electroshock therapy for 5 weeks and nothing, tried PRP, and it's been 2 weeks and it hurts even worse. So yeah, Jeff, basically right now, you're just doing too much load with the repetitive walking. If it's taking you 3 to 4 hours, that's a long period of time. So if you have to walk, and you need to do the lawn, then you unfortunately going to have to take walk breaks, or you're going to have to change your light hiking shoes and try to get in a different shoe that is more soft in the back of the shoe, like a sneaker, and a higher heel drop sneaker. So, and those will be like your lawn cutting shoes, right? That will get, dirty and all of that. So try switching up your shoes, try taking walk breaks. And honestly, third, like get a ride on, right? Like, do you really want to spend 2 to 3 hours mowing your lawn? I know I used to love mowing the lawn. And then when I got a ride on, it was like, ooh, game changer. And it just saves so much time for me. So just get a ride on, honestly. It sounds like that's the thing that's irritating you, is that like repetitive walking. And it sounds like the exercise you're doing in the gym is not irritating, but make sure it's not. Like make sure after that heavy calf raises that you're doing, the leg press calf raises, the next morning, make sure you don't notice that, hey, maybe it was that irritated it. I just want to make sure that the exercises are appropriate, because it sounds like you're getting pretty flared up with the walking. So I don't know if the heavy loading that you're doing concentrically, it sounds like you're doing in the gym, is like irritating as well, unless you're doing slow lowering only and eccentric. So it didn't say it there. So I just want to make sure that you're not kind of overloading the tendon in the gym as well. All right, next question. Oliver wants to know, I'm in the later stages of the rehab program and can already run 3 times a week. Awesome. The pain levels is decreasing each week. Excellent. Good sign. However, it's not 100% gone. I should do strength exercises for 12 weeks in a row. Would you recommend doing them on the days when I run as well? Thank you. So as far as the strength exercise, I think you're talking about the Achilles loading exercises. I think you're asking, should you do them for 12 weeks in a row? And should you be doing them on the days that you run? So if your pain levels are going down and you're progressing, and this is what I typically do with my athletes, is I'll have them start by doing it 5 to 6 times per week. And then when they are improving, let's say their pain levels are never higher than a 2 or a 3 out of 10, then I usually typically honestly decrease to 3 times a week. And even though the literature, all the studies are like these longer term studies where you're doing it for months every single day, clinically, in my experience, I found that that isn't necessary to continue seeing improvements. So it sounds like you are improving like wonderfully. So I would say at this point you could decrease 3 times a day. And in terms of do it on your run days or do it on your strength days, if you do it on your run days, I would definitely do it after the run, not before the run. And for me, that doesn't matter as much as time does. So for some of my runners, like they only have 45 minutes or an hour before work for their run. So if it's going to take extra time, they don't really have the time to do it on the run day, then you can do it on, your strength days that you're not running. So that doesn't matter as much. Just make sure if it's on the run day, do it after the run. All right, next question that comes in here. All right, I've had pain in my upper Achilles all up where it meets the calf. So we talked about that before. It seems like this is less common, harder to find information about. For the past month, I've done single leg eccentric heel drops every day, slow reps while holding up to 40 pounds of extra weight. Perfect. So you've loaded. My pain really has improved. Excellent. But now it seems by doing these heel drops on a box going below the level, I've managed to irritate the Achilles at the insertion point. Oh no, it's always something. It is, isn't it? Still running about 40 to 50 miles per week, but can't go higher without discomfort. I think ankle mobility may be the key. So we talked about this before, and it sounds like, unfortunately, like the loading that you were doing everything perfectly, by the way. So I don't know if I would have changed any of that unless in your history you told me you previously had insertional pain before. Then I would have told you not to go below the level of the step. Right now, definitely don't go below the level of the step. But it sounds like you're doing well. I would just wait for this to, calm down in the insertional point before you do increase your mileage. But otherwise, you're like right there. It seems like you're in the red zone. If we use the football analogy, you're like almost there. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So next question is how to improve ankle mobility, which was point 3 in my insertional tendinopathy video of like how to fix this is improve your ankle mobility. How do we improve it if we can't stretch? Because sometimes stretching causes compression of that insertional point of the tendon. So it's a great question that you ask. We definitely want to avoid calf stretching. But I found that the specific mobility exercise is tolerated well based on your level of tissue irritability. Sometimes high level tissue irritability, it's not tolerated as well. But be sure that you don't go past the point to where it is painful. So that mobility exercise for someone who has insertional tendinopathy, you have to like do no harm with it. You want to make sure it's not irritating. It's like this catch 22 is like you want to improve ankle mobility, but at the same time, when you do flex that, lower leg forward over the foot and an ankle, it is going to cause a little bit of compression. So again, it's just like do it conservative. And that specific exercise is the ankle mobility with the band that you're referring to. So make sure that band is pulling that bone back on the front of your ankle. And I will link that in the description, or it's actually within the Achilles download that I mentioned earlier. All right, next question. Can you share the link for the pain monitoring model? Also, what are your thoughts on night splints for insertional Achilles tendonitis? So my Spark pain monitoring model, it is within the exercise video. So if you just go to the exercise video, and I'm going to link all of the Achilles videos in this training, so you'll have all of them. So it's in there, and I post it, but it's also in the download as well, that pain monitoring model. So that's there. And then as far as night splints for insertional tendonitis, I do not see a need at all for that. Number one, night splints have super low evidence that it will do anything for Achilles tendonitis. It is one of those kind of older school treatments that typically podiatrists would recommend for Achilles tendonitis. And the whole goal was to like stretch the tissue a little bit during the nighttime. But I feel like the night splints, the back of your heel is going to be pushing down into the splint. So it's probably going to irritate it more than anything, just from the pressure that it has. So like some of my athletes say they actually get irritated with not even using a splint, the back of their heel on their mattress or their sheets. So I couldn't imagine like putting night splints or boot on and then pushing into the back of that. So I don't really think that's going to help you at all, honestly, night splints. So next question that comes in is, thank you so much for this awesome and informative video. You're welcome. I got this injury for 2 weeks now after a run where my insertional area started hurting and I stopped. I have some doubts though. Okay, a couple questions here. All right, let me just make sure I'm understanding context. So for 2 weeks now after a run, hurt, stopped, doubts. If it hurts to even walk, should we even run? So the question is, if it is really flared up where it is hurting with walking, then no, you shouldn't run. In the most acute phase, should we ice it? You can, yes, for a couple of days, I would say. And should we use local anti-inflammatories? Yes, absolutely. But again, it's usually a 3 to 4 day course that I recommend for my athletes. The longest, a week tops. I don't think you need it after that. Should we use crutches or is that too much rest? Yeah, crutches would definitely be overkill in this case, where it is almost protecting it way, way too much. You definitely don't need crutches. So basically, the main question is how to go from the acute to recovery phase where we can exercise. I feel like any walk or even driving my car makes the injury worse. I know driving can be tough for most as well, just because you're putting pressure on the back of the heel by having your foot in that position to kind of push on the pedal. So if your pain is greater than a 5 or 6 out of 10 with walking, then I would treat it with rest, ice, and anti-inflammatory meds for a short course, 3 to 4 days, no more than a week. Crutches will certainly be overkill. That should be enough, honestly, to advance to the next phase and start loading the tendon with isometrics. Like, best of luck to you. Hopefully, you're doing better by the time this video is actually released. So, Snipe15007 says, well, I have definitely been doing calf raises off the edge of the step that needs to go bye-bye. Yes, it does. This is a huge to learn. I probably also not cut back my mileage enough, and I definitely have ankle mobility issues. One thing I'm curious about is how often to do the ankle mobility exercise, daily or semi-daily. Thanks for posting this information. It's super helpful. I'm eager to climb the hill from my 1 to 2 pain level back to full healthy. Been in this almost healthy place for a couple of months now, and it's driving me nuts. Yeah, so patience. First off, it can take months and months, honestly, to get out of that 1 or 2 out of 10 pain. So patience, persistence, consistency with the loading exercises. As far as the mobility, daily would be great if you can, if you have the time. Given you're at a 1 to 2 out of 10 pain, I wouldn't say it's needed and like necessary to do it that often. I'd probably say 2 to 3 times per week if we were working together. But the loading exercises, like, definitely keep those up and progress your resistance. So you're doing more weight, because that's going to be the long-term fix to get you out of that 1 to 2 out of 10 pain and back actually to pain-free. So best of luck to you. Next question comes in. I have been a bursitis, insertional tendinitis, tendinopathy for 17 years. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Long time. Sometimes better, sometimes worse. I've tried so many things, but man, this information is really good. Video, do you work online? I am in Washington State. Yeah, thank you so much for your feedback. And sorry to hear that you've been battling this for 17 years. Like, that's way too long. Yes, I do help many runners with insertional pain from all over the world, actually, from New Zealand, Australia, the UK, a lot of Canadian runners I work with as well, even though I'm in the States. You can learn more by just going to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/coaching. And if you want, to kind of get a little flavor of what it looks like for us to work together. Nupoor is also a recent athlete of mine who we just finished up, and he had originally found me by watching many of the Achilles videos that you have seen. And he really had 2 years of Achilles pain, and we got him back to confident, pain-free running in his 50s. And he was a steady runner for over 6 years, comfortably logging 15 miles per week until his Achilles started acting up. Right, what began as post-run soreness slowly escalated into a full-blown insertional Achilles tendinopathy. And after 2 years of pain, he stopped running altogether. Like many runners, he tried physical therapy, he tried chiropractic care, but what he got was a mix of exercises with no structure and no clear progression. And he felt stuck. Then, after watching a few of my YouTube videos and reading about others who had been in the exact same like shoes as Nupoor, he found hope in a testimonial that mirrored his own journey. And with surgery looming, he had just seen an orthopedic surgeon. He made a decision that would change everything. He said, "Let me try Dwayne's program before I go under the knife." We met virtually, and I created a personalized, structured recovery plan for him, a day by day schedule that accounted for his available time, which was only an hour a day, very busy professional, and worked around his busy life. So he appreciated that I wasn't a generic PT, kind of giving him a generic PT routine. It was specific, progressive, and it was runner focused. So throughout the 4-month program, he not only stayed consistent, he stayed running. And by the end, Nupoor was back to 17 miles per week with minimal pain. His speed hadn't fully returned yet, but his confidence had. And he says, even though I tried PT before, it wasn't the right kind for me. Dwayne's plan was, and it saved me from surgery. Now in his early 50s, Nupoor is running strong again without the need for invasive procedures. He credits his recovery to the PT who truly understands runners, and the program that made him feel seen, supported, and empowered. He says his thoughtful, humble, and relatable. He told me I'd get back to pain-free running, and he was right. If you're dealing with insertional Achilles tendinopathy and you're frustrated, uncertain, and considering surgery, like let Nupoor's story be your reminder that recovery is possible with the right plan and the right coach. If you want us to be able to help you out, see if it's a good fit, learn more by just going to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/coaching. Or if by the time you see this video, I don't actually have availability for taking on one-on-one athletes, because I'm pretty much at this point staying at my max capacity throughout. Or if you actually have your own local PT, amazing. Or if you're working with a coach, amazing, who works with a lot of injuries, and you don't need like the structured plan for your Achilles pain, but you want a full system I've created for runners struggling with Achilles pain, then join our Healthy Runner Academy waitlist. And you can simply go to that by going to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/HRA. This was a Q&A episode answering your submitted Achilles questions. I could honestly go on for more, but you would not listen to me any longer. There's so many more questions. I tried to pick like the most common themes that I saw reoccurring in the comments section. So hopefully this was helpful for you, so you don't have to stop making the common mistakes and finally get out of the injury cycle and back into pain-free running. My name is Dr. Dwayne Scotty, and my mission is to empower you to feel strong and confident in getting faster and enjoying lifelong Achilles injury-free running. I'm the founder of Spark Healthy Runner, and you are watching the Healthy Runner podcast. Like and subscribe and hit that bell so you're notified when I do another video like this. This training was all about helping you navigate the nuances of Achilles recovery. Now you can learn how to finally get back into running without setbacks following my Return to Running program. Just watch the video that I have for you next.